I will not go to you, Jim.
Excuse me, this is indeed an honor for me. I have a quote from Vince Lombardi that says, "The quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to their commitment to excellence, regardless of their chosen field of endeavor." Our 1994 Mount Vernon Chamber of Commerce Citizen of the Year has shown this commitment to excellence in all her endeavors. To say that Kathy is a busy individual is really an understatement of grand proportions. Kathy has been and currently is involved in many activities and projects, a lot of them at the same time. She's wife, mother, publisher, journalist, a Girl Scout leader, member of the First Presbyterian Church, chairperson of the 25th anniversary of the Apple Butter Making Days, and that same year, president of the Chamber of Commerce. That's no small feat by anybody's standards. She served 7 years on the Apple Butter Making Days committee. She was Beta Sigma Phi's 1993 Woman of the Year. She organized the Share Your Christmas Project, which is done through the Lawrence County Record, which connects those who have needs with those who want to share during the Christmas season. This last year, as chairman of the Museum Task Force of the Lawrence County Historical Society, Kathy guided the reopening of the Jones Memorial Museum by October 7, 1994, in time for Apple Butter Making Days. Man, that was quite a deal. It was a lot of work. 2 years ago, Kathy wrote, edited, and published a hardcover book on life in Lawrence County since its founding in 1845. Down Turned Back Trails sold out its nearly 500 copies in less than a year. We couldn't keep it in the store. I put it up in our snack area in front on the table, and tourists who would come through that weren't even involved in Lawrence County would buy that book because it was such an incredible compilation of history of Lawrence County and Mount Vernon. The sales from that book benefited Lawrence County's Sesquicentennial Committee, which received more than $3,000 to help pay for the 150th birthday celebration. And as I understand it, there's a softback edition that works great. It's wonderful. Kathy is a devoted person that guarantees that the task at hand will be completed. I look at her and she is seemingly tireless, she's selfless, she's a consummate cheerleader of Mount Vernon and Lawrence County who does not draw attention to herself or wear her accomplishments for all to be seen. She truly walks the walk, she doesn't just talk it. Another quote from Ms. Lombardi states that individual commitment to a group effort is what makes a team. A company work, a society work, a civilization, and I submit, a community work. Kathy Fairchild exemplifies that commitment. Mount Vernon is very fortunate, and I insert to be envied because of her eagerness and willingness to be more than just a bystander. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce the Mount Vernon Chamber of Commerce 1994 Citizen of the Year, Kathy Fairchild.
Sidewalks. Even from my earliest days when we came to Mount Vernon for vacations, we'd stay out at the farm with Aunt Nancy and Uncle Ed and come to town where great-granddad always saw to it that we had a bottle of carnation pop and a dime for the Ben Franklin store. Over the years, I've grown to appreciate the community even more as I've learned more and more about its history and its people and its personality. There is no better place to live than Mount Vernon. And to receive this award in this town from this group means more to me than I can say. Thank you very much.
appreciation for service to the Mount Vernon Chamber of Commerce as president, 1994, Sarah M. Bibbs. Before I let her have the mic for a minute, she never told me how many phone calls I was going to be getting.
When I picked Jim up the other day, taking him out to Rayco, he got me crying. He goes, "Does your phone ever stop ringing?" No, it doesn't. Thank you very much. I appreciate this. I have some people I need to thank, and one is Jim. He's been there for me 100% as vice president. Another is Doris. Doris is there for me all the time. She's there for all of us all the time. A third one would be Dave Eden. Dave gives me the time away from the store. Now, I use a lot of my own time too, but Dave gives me a lot of hours away from that store. So, in a way, I share this with Dave because he gives me the time to do the job. And most of all, I'd like to thank Mike. Some people don't think he has a wife. Somebody asked him the other day where I was, and he told them that I was doing some chamber thing. He wasn't sure what it was that night. And they said, "She's gone all the time. That ought to be a paying job. I will accept donations to get the bags out." But I very much appreciate this, and I appreciate the help of all of you, at the outgoing board and the incoming. And I hope you have not been bored to death sitting here. It's been fun for us. And our entertainment that's coming up, I'm sure is going to be great. And then our door prizes you don't want to miss. Thank you very much.
One thing for sure is our program tonight will be one that will prove to be a humorous and educational experience. Don gave me some biographical information about both he and Doug, and this information uniquely qualifies them in their talent and their expertise. And he gave it to me here, somewhere here. Seek the advice of a healthcare professional before using this product. If swallowed, induce vomiting immediately. Was that what you gave me? No. May cause drowsiness. Use caution when driving or operating machinery. Keep out of reach of children. If rash or irritation develops, discontinue use. Somewhere it's in here. When I asked Don and Doug to do a history program for us, I asked them to keep it light. I spend a great deal of time at the donut shop in the morning before I go to the store, and they had such a unique perspective on Lawrence County and on Mount Vernon and on Kansas. I know I'm going to hear about Kansas. They are certainly qualified, very qualified in the subject as both past presidents of the Lawrence County Historical Society. In addition to being Kathy Fairchild's father, Don is a retired professor and dean at Missouri Southern State College, and Doug is a lieutenant with the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office. I might mention that Doug is a former recipient of the Chamber's Citizen of the Year. Now, I don't know whether to read what they wrote here or to go on to mine. I'll read theirs too. So here they are. Branson Brothers, each your heart. It's my pleasure to introduce tonight's entertainment, the Calvin and Hobbes of Mount Vernon. You be the judge of who's who. The dynamic duo of Lawrence County history, often imitated, but never duplicated, Don and Doug Seneca.
Jim told me he was going to say a little something, and I told him to remember that we're up here after he's It's a pleasure. I'm sorry, I'm going to get out of this coat. It is hot up here. I feel sorry for those of you who've been sitting up here the whole time. But anyway, the banjo down at the donut shop, Della Meyerswinkle this morning. Della Meyerswinkle asked Doug to play a banjo solo, so put this hat on. No, I don't think I will. Let me get back to this. We're happy to have the opportunity to be with you to talk about our area history, and particularly at the beginning of the sesquicentennial year. Just think of it. Just think of 150 years of history, and we're going to talk about it in about 30 minutes this evening. And we're going to have to move right along to get along with it, Doug, right? Yep. Okay, let's say it's a privilege for us to talk about Mount Vernon because we were born right here in Mount Vernon at a very early age. You just wanted to be close to Mom. Is this how it's going to be? Is this what the evening's going to be like? Well, you wouldn't even wear the hat. No, I'm not going to wear this hat. I put this hat on, and you know what we'd look like? Laurel and Hardy. And I'd have to be the fat guy. Well, I'm not going to wear that hat. But anyway, particularly glad to be here this evening, and since Kathy received the award here this evening, and of course we're proud of Kathy, and her mother and I extend our congratulations also. I'd like to do a song for Kathy. No, yes. No, a little later on in the evening you can do a song, but not right now. This is her favorite song. I remember her laying there in her little diapers. And she'd want me to sing this song, and she'd just grin and clap her little hands. I just think we ought to do it. Specifically asked me, don't let Uncle Doug sing that song. And you're not going to sing it. We're not having anything put out here tonight that's got socially unacceptable content in it. You're just not going to do it. I can clean it up. You can clean that up. I can clean it up. If I clean it up and make it socially acceptable, will you sing along with me? For Kathy? Well, when you put it that way, sure. Okay. Yes, I will. You're going to clean it up. Yep. Oh, some folks say that a preacher won't steal. Lay down yonder in the cornfield. But I come to in my cornfield. Lay down yonder in the cornfield. And one had a shovel and the other had a hoe. Lay down yonder in the cornfield. If that ain't stealing, well, I don't know. Way down, big finish. Way down yonder in the cornfield. It'd been a lot simpler if you'd have checked this all out with me ahead of time. It puts me in a bad spot when you sucker me in like that. Now listen, we're here to talk about history. Senator Melton, when he came in, saw him at the door and said, "Oh, I'm going to be happy to hear you talk about history this evening." And so far, we haven't got much history talked about. But we're going to, Senator, and the others of you who are here to listen to, with some officers from the Historical Society here. This area started with a warm, shallow sea. And for thousands of years, this area consisted of that sea. And the marine animals that lived in those waters during those many, many years, when they died, their little calcium bodies filtered down to the bottom, got in layers, and they formed what we now call limestone deposits. And you go out here on I-44, and you can see deposits of limestone out there with crinoid fossils in them, little round things, which the Indians used to make beads out of and hung around their necks. Then the Ozark Plateau, upheaval occurred, and as the land rose up, the waters drained away and cut back into the soil. The wind and erosion then gradually gentled those rough terrains, and we now see the beautiful Ozark rolling hills that we're familiar with. We had giant mammoths. We had mammoths, we had giant crocodiles, and wolves in this area. Early man was here in the form of cave dwellers. The Indians who were here at first were Osage Indians, and Doug, am I boring you? No. Are you going to help me? We were invited here to give a history talk. And that's what I intend to do. I'm going to give a history talk. Now, what do you intend to do? Frankly, I feel a little bit like Jaw Gabor's seventh husband on their wedding night. You feel like Jaw Gabor's seventh husband on their wedding night? I know what's expected of me. I just hope I can make it interesting. Please, just stop that and help me. Will you help me? Yes, if you let me do a banjo solo. Does it have any historical significance, or does it involve any historical personage of any sort? Yes, our grandma. Ought to be all right. This is a song about my grandma, and you guys can help. Now, there'll come a part in the chorus where I'll say, down her nose, and you guys echo, down her nose. You point to them when they're supposed to do it. Down her nose. Down her nose. Down her nose. Down her nose. Is this supposed to be melodious, isn't it? It's supposed to be a tune? Yeah, here, let's do that. We're rehearsing. Get ready. Down her nose. Down her nose. So let's sing. Down her nose. Down her nose. Okay, you got it. Sorted right there. All right. Hang on, and here we go. Oh, Grandma's in the cellar. Lordy, can't you smell her? Just in this song after the pretty stone. In her eye there is some matter that keeps creeping in the batter. And if she whistles loud, runs down her nose. Down her nose. Down her nose. Down her nose. And she whistles wild, runs down her nose. Why, there is some matter that keeps dripping in remember just exactly how that went. But I do know Grandma didn't have anything to do with it. Yes, it did. No, it wasn't Grandma. It was Kathy. It was one of Kathy's favorite songs. Let's try to keep this dignified. Kathy and several other people here have been recognized this evening. We've had students here from the school, and please accept our congratulations on your attainments this evening. The Golden Apple Award recipients, we have a bunch of new directors, Mike Tebow. Mike Tebow was one of my Boy Scouts when I was Scoutmaster here in Mount Vernon. I was in Mike Tebow's restaurant just the night before last up at McDonald's. Yep. It was clear full, packed. A lot of people come in there. I went in there to get me a hamburger and some French fries and a Coke. There wasn't anywhere to sit except this one table. This old guy was sitting there. Looked like he came in off the interstate or something. Had a little bag with him. Well, I went ahead and sat down. Got up to get me some ketchup. I come back, and this guy was eating my French fries. Eating your French fries? Eating my French fries. And I said, hey, those are my French fries. He said, no, they're not. I said, yeah, those are my French fries. He said, no, they're my French fries. Well, I thought about just knocking the flying. I looked around, Mike wasn't there, so I thought, well, I won't make a scene. I'll just sit down. That took quite a bit of control on your part. Hey. I sat down there and I ate my hamburger. He had this little bag with him. And all the time I was eating, I took my foot and I kind of eased it over underneath the table. And when I got done, I just reached down and grabbed that bag and started out the door with it. He said, hey, that's my bag. I said, no, it's not, it's my bag. He said, no, it's my bag. And I said, no, that's my bag. You took it with you? Yeah. Yeah, what was in the bag? Baloney, just like this story. Cut into my time, Doug. I'm not going to have time to tell about the early settlers. I'm not going to have time to get into the story of Turnback Creek, but most of you know the story of how the first settlers came in this area in the 30s, and those who were faint of heart, when they reached that creek, turned back, and hence the name for the creek. Even the Civil War, and goodness knows I'd like to tell a lot about the Civil War, but those of you who took some of the bus tours with us heard the story about Mrs. Tolliver and her 14-year-old son, who just on the edge of town heard shots during the war. They came down, found a dead 14-year-old boy lying in the road in what is today Business I-44 loop, right about where the Chamber of Commerce office is. And she, fearful for her own 14-year-old son, enrolled him in the Union Army, lest the local Union sympathizers find out that her husband and brother-in-law were Confederate soldiers, and in fact were both killed down in Pea Ridge, Arkansas. We could tell about, well, speaking of Tollivers, you remember our own great-great-grandfather Tolliver, who lived out here just north of where Salem Church is now, on about 500 acres of fine land, and who during the war was burned out by those rascally, red-legged, jayhawk Yankees from Kansas. I hate Kansas. Doug, that was a long time ago. Everybody hates Kansas. Not everybody hates Kansas. Just look out there. Jim Barr, that introduced us, that invited us to speak up here this evening, the new president of the association, is from Kansas. I know. He apologized to me. He apologized to you for being from Kansas? No, he said he was sorry he invited us. Oh. Well, I don't doubt that. But not everyone hates Kansas just because you do. General Custer hated Kansas. General Custer hated Kansas? General Custer in the 7th Cavalry was going out to the Little Bighorn, They had to go through Kansas. They hated it. It was flat, windy, miserable, dry, no redeeming qualities. They had a big morale problem all the way through Kansas. They just hated it. Well, they got out around a little big horn, and the general sent a scout out. He comes running back out of breath, and the general says, "Well, what'd you see?" He said, "Sir, I got some good news and some bad news." He said, "Well, what's the bad news?" He said, "Right over that hill is about 100,000 screaming Indians armed to the teeth coming this way." He said, "Well, what's the good news?" He said, "We ain't gonna have to go back through Kansas." That's awful. But there's not an ounce of historical fact in that story. History is being made even today. They're working on the courthouse. They're going to put a new statue up on the courthouse. That's historical. The hospital here has changed roles several times. And historical events have happened up here. Local industries, as they come and go, that's historical in nature. Well, like when the carnation plant left here. Oh, wait a minute. I got a poem about the carnation plant. Got a poem about the carnation plant. Scott Sifferman gave me this. When did Judge Sifferman never did work at the carnation plant? No, he'd come to town, I guess, and he'd get with some local ruffian boys, and they'd go around behind the building and probably smoke cigarettes or something. And he'd hear the guys at the carnation plant saying this little ditty. It was a kind of a song. He couldn't remember the tune, but I wrote the words down. Hold them up here. It's historical. Hold our seat. Okay, I'll kind of pretend like it's a song. See that? Carnation cream, the best in the land. It comes to you in a little red can. No teats to pull, no hay to pitch, just poke a hole in that. Whoa, no! Our parents, just look, there's preachers here. Oh, I know a preacher story. Reverend, keep this cold. I think that's Fickies. It's spelled Fickies. Look the other way. It's Fickies. It's spelled F-I-C-K-E-J-S. Fickies. Well, the way it is in the program, Reverend, Fickies just told me this story. It's a historical story happened right here in Mount Vernon. This guy lost his hat, okay? He was going down the street. He went by the church. I think it was a Presbyterian church. He saw they were all in there, and they knew that they kept a lot of hats and coats hung up in there. They'd just go in there and steal one. So he started in there. They were all standing up, not paying any attention. Just as he got ready to steal this hat, they sat down. So he had to sit down real quick so they wouldn't notice him. And he stayed and listened to the sermon. Afterwards, the preacher came out, and he left the church, and he shook his hand and said, "Come back and all like they do." And he said, "Preacher," he said, "I can't lie to you." He said, "I lost my hat, and I come in here to steal one. But I got to listening to your sermon about the 10 Commandments. When you started talking about adultery, I remembered where I left my hat." Warren Fickies never did tell you myself. Tell you that story. You're not going to run down preachers anymore. Our own dad is sitting there. He's a preacher. Mom said I could. No, it's just absolutely ridiculous. This is supposed to be about it. This is supposed to be a history talk. History. And no doubt, even as history was being made, the people who were there probably didn't realize that it was historical. This is probably historical right now. Doubt that very much. But the people didn't realize that history was being made, even at major events. Well, maybe some things. Maybe the hangings on the courthouse square. Did you know there were 3 men hung down at the courthouse square? I know a hanging song. It's not in the script. That's all right. People come here. I had several requests to do a banjo solo, and I think they would rather hear that than this other stuff. We don't have time. It's just a little short. This, do I know it? Well, I think probably so. If you recognize it, just join in. A long time ago, people, they would write stories in the first person about actual events. This is a sad song about a guy who's getting ready to get hung about 150 years ago. He asked the hangman to kind of wait, slack his rope for a little bit, because he was waiting for his mother, and his sister, and his lawyer, and preacher. This is entitled Hangman, Hangman, Slack Your Rope. Now you know it. I'll try to harmonize it. Hangman, hangman, slack your rope. Hangman, hangman, slack your rope. Slack it for a... That's disgusting. You were real short. Now, let's get back to history. That's what the program is supposed to be about tonight. Many people don't realize that right here, we're in what used to be considered the Old West. And maybe hard for us to visualize that now. Years ago, people back east thought of this as the Old West. This the cowboys and cattle country. It was cattle country then, it's still cattle country. And you can see cowboys out here, you can see... Is this where we sing the song? Yes. This is where we sing the song. I agreed to put in one song. And this is it. This is a song. In the early days, they would write songs in the first person about actual events. This is a really sad song. It's poignant. It's poignant. Poignant. Pregnant with feeling. This is a song about a cowboy whose girlfriend is about 6 months poignant. No, this is actually, it's a sad song. It happened about 150 years ago. And it's a song about Laredo, Missouri. It's entitled The Cowboys Lament or Streets of Laredo. Wait just a minute before you start that seriously for just a minute. We did, as I said, we did agree to have one song this evening, and Doug has really worked on this song. And if I do say so myself, he did a nice job on it. And in fact, the piece is beautiful. I think you'll see. I think when he sings this, you're going to feel something. You'll just feel something. So it's a real pleasure for me to introduce my brother, Doug Seneker, singing the Cowboy's Lament from the streets of Laredo. Doug. As I walked out on the streets of Laredo, and I walked out on Laredo one day, I met a young cowboy all dressed in white linen, dressed in white linen and cold as the grave. I see by your outfit that you are a cowboy. I see by your outfit that you're a cowboy too. We see by your outfits that we are both cowboys. You get an outfit, you can be a cowboy. That's cheap music lovers. That wasn't in there. Been several things weren't in here. It's late now. I didn't agree to do that. Frankly, I figured by this point in the evening, my reputation was ruined. And you pretty well messed up this evening, Doug. Thanks a lot. We had a nice build-up, too. With that article in the paper that Steve put in the paper, my son-in-law put it in there. Did you read that? Chamber to hear Seneker twins. Yeah, it said Seneker twins, and you won't even wear the hat. I told you why I'm not going to wear it. I know why you won't wear the hat, Ollie. Oh, man. Yeah, Seneker twins, and you won't even wear the hat. And he says that. And I say, he's always bossed me around. He's an hour and 20 minutes older than me, and he always bragged about being an hour and 20 minutes older than me. And now I can brag about him being an hour and 20 minutes older than me. And that's what an hour and 20 minutes without oxygen will do. Well, you could at least wear the hat. I already did that. Let's get back to the script. At this point in our history program, we will have a banjo solo. Did you write this in here? Yep. This is a banjo solo about the Old South. A lot of our ancestors came here. Does this have historical content? This is a historical banjo solo about the Old South. A lot of our ancestors came up here from Tennessee and Virginia and down around the Swanee River. I might just as well have worn that silly hat about the Swanee River. fine mess you've gotten me into, Dougie. Good night. Well, good night.